9:01, and I will open February 23rd Select Board meeting, 9:01, and we will begin with public comments, and then we're going to change up the agenda just a bit. Public. Anyone on the Zoom, Dina?
No.
Okay.
Well, Jordan.
Hi, Jordan.
Good morning, Jordan.
Okay, so, since we have Sean here and he hasn't been called out yet, he might wanna tell us very briefly about a little excitement here in Town Hall on Friday and his suggestions for possibly making things a little safer.
Yes, so the town office building was visited by a group that are more commonly known as First Amendment auditors. And they generally will arrive at a public place, most often town office buildings, where they presume that the governing body of the town is on a given day at a particular time. They are, they tell you that they don't want you to ask them questions. They ask the questions now. Their forefathers 300 years ago fought for their right for them to tell us not to ask them questions. And they just ramble on and they take videos and they will go into any place that is not marked, not for public. So they did walk down here. This door was open at the time and they saw the open for public on the inside of the door. However, if this door had been closed, I believe they probably would not have come in this door. So I believe that, and so they're savvy enough, they've been doing this long enough so that they know what they can do, what they can say, and what they can't do, and what they can't say. And one of the things that they are basically trying to do is get someone from the town office building to call the police. Because that's really what they want. They really want to have an encounter with the police. They drove into this parking lot and immediately came into this building. They didn't go into the police department foyer until they were getting ready to leave. And I suspect they only did that because there was no cruiser out there, so they probably presumed that there was no officer there. I mean, they really don't want to get into into a conversation with the police.
But
They
you
want
said
us to be called
Okay,
to come in, and then they'll get on their rant about, oh, must be they're feeling threatened by us, we haven't done anything, just to be clear, but now they've called the police, and now we feel threatened, so that's, they play the backwards game, and, so that's their scheme, and then they go on, they post things to YouTube and all that. So one of the things that I think should happen in this building all the time is that all of these doors should be closed. And in this, I've actually advocated for this since we moved into this building. And since we put up all the things in the town clerk, there's doors here for a reason. And they're wooden doors and they're not really gonna protect us if somebody wants to do harm, but it will slow them up for 30 seconds and might give you the opportunity to get out of the room. But the doors, they should be closed. I think that, in the case where you go into the select board office, that should look much like the town clerk's window area here. And probably a secondary door, so there is a sign with red tape that says no non-employees beyond this point.
yeah.
Okay, well, if they really didn't care about that rule, they would have gone there anyway.
Mhm.
However, if there is a physical barrier there, they have no choice.
Right.
And everyone has no choice but to stop. And then it is the decision of the employees working in there as to who gets let in to that
Mhm.
area. You know, lots of things have to come into account here, and it's, you know, there's multitudes of classified and personal documents in there. You know, I mean, if somebody gets into this door and gets into that door, then they have free range, you know, I mean, and like I said, if they wanna get in, they're gonna get in, whether there's anybody in this building or not. So I think those things should be done, we should be, you know, there should be a door. And up until probably 4 or 5 years ago, the police department has had a camera system that was provided by Tasco Security. The original system that we have in there was given to us by Tasco because it was an older model at the time, and, you know, they knew we had just moved into this building, and, you know, we were kind of scrapping for money through the town, so Tim Supernaut from Tasco gave us the system. You know, we paid for the cameras that are here. There's one here, right here on the outside of this building. There's one on the back, and then there are 2 or 3 inside the police department itself. And, you know, at the time, there again, we didn't have the money to put cameras in here, but I think it's now time.
It's an open eye system?
What's that?
Is it an open eye system?
Yeah, so so what would happen is, I presume that Tasco would replace the actual camera system that's here in my office and just add the add the cameras in here. Everything would be kept and stored inside the police department. The added bonus to that is that Hanover Dispatch at any time can tap in and watch any room in this building. So, you know, in a case like last Friday, when Patty and David both called dispatch to say, hey, you know, we're just wondering if one of the Lyme officers is on, we've got these people here, blah, blah. In conjunction with dispatch saying, well, you know, Sergeant Elliott's on call, but, you know, we don't have anybody in Hanover that can go up there right now. They could have turned the cameras on and watched the whole thing to make sure that they didn't have to say, whoa, we gotta get somebody up there. You know, cause I mean, the initial call that Patty sent in, Patty didn't even tell them what was going on. She just asked if Sergeant Elliott was working. They said, no, he's on call, and she said, oh, well, so that means he's, you know, 30 minutes away. Yes, okay, thank you. And then she didn't say anything else. At that point, dispatch probably would have been like, ew, maybe we should turn the cameras on, maybe we should look. And then, you know, 10 minutes later, 5 minutes later, when David called, they most certainly would have turned the cameras on and been able to watch the whole encounter. So added benefits there, and the sad state of affairs is that this is where we're at when it comes, you know, I mean, most town office buildings, every police department, every firehouse, they're all cambered. You know, I mean, I've said it before, if you're walking in downtown Hanover, anywhere in downtown Hanover, and I call dispatch and say, hey, can you see if you can find Judy Brotman for me? Guess what, they're gonna find you. More than likely, they will find you because the amount of cameras that are in the town of Hanover is crazy, but, you know, it serves its purpose. They're recorded, so something happens, somebody says, you know, Patty says, oh, you know, I think somebody was in our office, the back door was open, you know, whatever. We can go back and watch, dispatch can go back and watch, and, you know, So Tim Supranat is coming next Tuesday to meet with Dina and I.
Okay, good.
We will have a look around. I mean, I don't think there needs to be 20 cameras in here, but I think that, you know, a camera in this room, a camera in this hallway,
Hallway.
probably above this door facing that way. And a camera in the selectman's office, somewhere by the closet, by the computer in the mail door, facing that way, so you get the broad view. And then one in the town clerk's side, probably in this corner, facing that way. So, I mean, we're talking 4 cameras, 4 cameras and whatever it will cost to put the rest of
To
it
upgrade yours.
in there, to upgrade that system.
Okay.
That's that's what
okay.
I'm gonna pitch to Tim and see, I mean, he may have other thoughts. I mean, you know, the nice thing is, number one, it's already their system.
Yep.
And number two, they have installed the panic buttons
Right.
in the entire building. So it's all their equipment, it's all their stuff. I think we would be defeating the purpose and probably spending much more money to go outside of Tasco
Right.
at this point.
I'm
So-
good with that, Ben. David, you good with that? Other thoughts?
So, back when I was a lawyer, every once in a while, I would, not get enough sleep or work particularly hard, and the afternoon would come and I'd take an Internal Revenue Code off the shelf and put it down on the floor and take a little nap, have a little blanket. And when I was doing that, I'm not sure I would have appreciated having a camera in my office. So, but my point is that the flip side of this is adding cameras to the interior of this building results in a loss of privacy by the people who work here. So I guess if I were working here, I'd be happy to have the cameras and, you know, I'd take my nap in a place that didn't have, it was outside the view of them. But I think if we're gonna consider doing that, Dina, it's important that we talk to the people who work here. And, you know, people have different reactions to that. One or more of the people may say, hell no, I don't want a camera looking at me all day. That's invasive.
Well, when you're sitting at your desk working, you're not thinking about a camera on you, you know, and,
Yes.
You're not,
you
and,
know.
and so just to
I
sort
could be
of,
doing something that I don't want somebody to see, or.
Just picking your
But-
nose.
But it's, well, I was thinking of that, but I wasn't gonna say it. But I'm wondering, Sean, would it be effective enough to just have the camera out in the public part where people walk in and then you can kind of, because if we're gonna have our doors locked and closed, they can't get in our office. And they're gonna already see who they are.
yeah, I mean, you could put one here and then just put one on the outside of the building.
That's a good conversation
Yeah,
to
I was
have
gonna
with
say, the
Tim.
outside of the building seems like that would catch midnight
Well,
prowlers as well.
Yeah, but, I mean, you have 15 people that come in here for a meeting at night, and then one thing comes up missing from the building somewhere, well, now you got 15 people.
Yeah, or
Whereas
maybe-
if you got a camera in there,
I
that,
think that's a good conversation to have
Mhm.
with Tasco and the various levels of what there might be, and that would give us time to
Right.
chat with the other employees. In my mind, I'm going all the way back to when they had the shooting of the newspaper office up north. And I really think we need to make sure that the building is secure and the staff is safe as much as we can without it becoming, pardon the phrase, a police state.
Mhm.
So-
Or could the panic button turn on the cameras and send the message?
that's possible, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a
that's
good
definitely a
That's a
question
good
for Tim.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Rich,
I
is
know
that
that
short?
on
Yes.
Bear Hill lands, we had illegal dumping at one gate, and my solution to that was to order a sign that said video surveillance, because today, nobody knows who put a game camera where.
Right.
Mhm.
And we no longer had any dumping
Right.
at that gate. So
Well,
that
that was
sign
something.
outside saying that it exists.
Yep.
Judy, I had 2 comments that I think are relevant. When I was on the board of the Howe Library, we had an unfortunate incident which drove us to putting up cameras. We had a couple overriding concerns. libraries are different from the town office, but one was, we did not want to photograph the public on the sidewalk, and so all the cameras were facing in, so that we would
Yeah.
see the person leaving that caused the disruption. That's number one. There's probably a different calculus here for the town offices, I'm not sure of that. The second is, we worked very hard to define the policy of what happens, when is it recorded, what happens to the video after it's recorded and all. I mean, again, libraries are really protective of their patrons.
Right.
But we worked hard to have guidelines to say, great, if, maybe if somebody pushes the panic button or this or that, or dispatch does or doesn't look at this on a regular basis. And so having the town decide what is going to happen to this will make a lot of people feel more comfortable.
Thank you.
There's not a lot of
Sean, when
reason
you
to
talk to
keep it
Tim, would you
very
ask him if the system is an open eye system?
Yes, I will.
It's a video quarter and internet access.
Say what, Ben?
There's no reason we'd have to keep the video very long. It's a 24-hour
Yeah,
rollout, would be more than adequate.
Right, exactly.
yeah.
And that, obviously, if something bad happened, you preserve that as long as you need it. But just, that's the policy piece I was talking about.
I
You may
think,
not always know in 24 hours if something bad is happening.
Well, we
Something
can pick a
is
time.
going- Yeah. like
No,
video.
you could pick the time, but believe me, looking at video, I use it in my bear work, and boy, there's nothing like looking through video in real time to waste hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, so I know that our system that was active at the time would only record, I think it would keep a constant 60 hours
Mhm.
of recorded time, and then it goes away.
gets recorded over or
Yeah,
whatever.
it just cycles
So
through.
I think we've got some good questions and good follow-up for when Tasco comes, and maybe a couple of different options.
Well, I'd love to hear what Tim, suggests and other,
Yeah, great.
I
other
think
people.
we're also going to, look into getting a hold of someone to do the framing and the door
Right.
and a larger
I
screen.
got a roundabout price, but I don't think we
Yep.
even need to talk about it.
That's a great idea. There should be at least a
Yeah.
half wall there.
Well, this
with
is
a
to
little-
kind of close it all in with a little window for Jordan, and then a separate door where it will be locked, and then we actually have to physically let people in,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I think so.
But I'll get a couple of estimates on that, and then you guys can decide.
That'd be great.
Well, it's certainly a wake-up call, because if
Yeah.
somebody was with a weapon,
It'd have been too
it'd
late,
been too late. There was
Yeah.
nothing to protect any of our
Mm.
employees.
right, right.
And if you go down to the police department in Hanover, you'll see a nice bulletproof glass with a microphone in it,
Yeah,
where they'll talk to you and
Right.
give you instructions with it,
And all the doors are locked.
and all of it.
well, and I think it was 5 or 7 maybe years ago, under 10 years ago, when Hanover actually installed cameras in the town office building. And, there were a bunch of us who were not real tickled with that,
Right.
but at the same time, there was enough stuff going on that we felt that we were a lot more secure to have it.
Well, and right now, so now in the town of Hanover's office building, everyone is glassed in.
Is that right?
Well, and I wanna say that
Downstairs,
downstairs,
Yeah.
yeah, we put in the door that goes into our office, there is a little mechanism that can stay locked all the time. And Jordan, or whoever's at that desk, can
push a button.
physically push the button to allow people to come in, and if we need to we stopped doing that
Yeah,
because we just did. So we can go back to that if that's what the board wishes. And then the town clerk's office door should be shut all the time.
There's a balance, because it's a little
I know,
town
it
and you
is a
don't want
little town,
to,
and
you
you
don't
wanna
want
be
to have it
friendly.
feel like you're visiting high security prison when you go to
Correct.
renew your.
Colebrook's a little town too.
But that's where,
Yeah.
you just don't know. what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
And we don't wanna be unwelcoming to the citizens that we work for, certainly
Right.
not,
right.
but we like to feel safe too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
Good
Sean,
stuff to talk
thank
about.
you very much.
You're welcome.
And I'm glad you and Dina will be meeting with these folks and we'll come up with some ideas. And you're gonna call about getting the door.
Yeah, I'm gonna go last.
Okay, that sounds super. So, moving right along. We have a bunch of minutes. January 23rd, we have public and non-public. January 26th, we have public. February 8th and February 9th, we have public. Next time we meet, we will do the non-public for February 9th. We don't have it today.
I'll move those minutes, just it off.
All the minutes,
You got a couple of little comments I had on one set.
With David's
I did,
changes.
yes.
yes. I saw those too. So, David, do you wanna second them?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
And I,
David, aye.
Judy, aye. Okay, so that is 123 public and non-public, 126 public, 28 and 29 public. Excellent.
Mhm.
And we have a gazillion pages of a manifest
Gazillion,
totaling is this right?
Yeah.
$143,429.14. There were 23 pages in the manifest.
I have one question.
well, it's been a while,
I had questions too, but I didn't print out the manifest.
would you like it?
Yeah, if you could give me, if you have a copy of it. just have a
I
copy.
do. I do.
That's the only one you have?
It is, sorry,
I'll find it.
that's the one you guys need to sign.
One item I didn't recognize the vendor on.
This one is better than the one you circulated, because it has
Yeah,
has more information.
or in a different format, it's easier to read.
I usually send you guys the final, it's not the actual manifest, cause I have to,
Right.
I usually save the other one, but it has
It
what
has,
it is,
it's
and it has
kinda
what department it goes
compressed,
to.
and it has a lot of abbreviations.
Well,
If it's
I
really
can
nice,
send
you
that
can-
exact one if you'd like.
What's the entry for Canopy Videos?
Oh, that's gonna be the library, I'll bet.
Canopy
Oh,
is a
yeah, it
library
is, it's
order.
the library,
Yeah.
excuse me, it is a library order.
Park Street Foundation. The Park Street.
I don't know, I gotta see where it went.
Yeah.
That'll remind my brain more. 2,205, oh, books,
Oh, that's
the
library.
library ordered books.
Okay.
Yeah, as I.
I know, sounds
there
like
were
a donation to
library,
something.
There were some rec commission, and then there was a lot of, stuff to the state for, retirement and.
There was, insurance, there was
Insurance.
retirement,
But all those things are regulars.
yes.
Not to do with the manifest, but just out of curiosity, it reminded me on here, seeing Lyme Fiber. They came to us and said they were gonna put free Wi-Fi in the common like a year ago or so. You know what does anyone know whatever happened with that?
I can speak to that, if this is a good time. Yes, it's there. It's not
Really?
perfect, and we're working to perfect it, but it is there. It's, if you go there, fire up your phone, and it's,
That's from house to house, Jack's house and.
well, we're moving it around. We're sticking it on the condos, 6 on the common, and the historians. And there's one other place, I can't remember exactly,
That was
but,
the Lyme Inn.
Well, they're obviously trying to optimize.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, we're working on it. It's there. It is intentionally limited to 5 megabits a second, so it's good enough for phone, it's good enough for checking your email and checking a quick website.
Interesting.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good, I'm glad to hear that
Thank you.
it's there. So we're okay with the manifest? Ben, you're okay with it?
Yep. Just that one thing that I hadn't seen.
Yeah. Good catch, I like that.
Most of them are
So you
pretty
guys
routine.
can stop, okay.
We got this one. Moving along to, here we go, across the gap.
Airmail.
And thank you, Rich, for the update on the common fiber. Okay, minutes. We have a notice of appointment for Hunter Snyder to the Electrical Aggregation Committee. And it is dated February 16th. And today's the 23rd, I don't know if it
Well, that's-
matters.
It's just
Okay.
the day that Patty filled it out.
So we've already voted on this, so we just need to sign this.
Yes, please.
Dated. And.
Oh, no, because I have recently not been able to get it.
Sometimes it works.
Oh, that's why I waited for you.
Yes. And then, well, we've got 15 minutes.
And you have Jan Williams who joined before you started your discussion, so
Oh,
just so
okay.
you know.
All right.
I don't know if you're doing public, I don't know, did you do public
We
comment?
Yeah, we
did, there
did.
was
There were-
somebody there.
Oh, I missed it.
Jan, you came on a little late, did you have a public comment?
I just asked her.
Hold on, we can't hear you.
Try it now.
If you're speaking to me, no, I do not have a public comment, thank you.
I was speaking to you, and thank you, okay.
I forgot I turned the TV down.
Okay, so I'll just take a minute or two, and then maybe if Todd is available, we can scooch him in. Just to confirm that, to the best of my knowledge, I believe we decided, along with our town moderator, that there would be no little town meeting this year. And that the library will be hosting a candidates night, and I believe it's a Sunday, March, possibly 3rd, Sunday and Sunday. 5, 5, 7, 2, March, come on. 1, 2, 3, must be the 5th. March 5th. I do believe.
Judy, I was on Zoom for that, and I did hear you talk about asking the town how they felt about not having a little town meeting. Did you do any polling?
Did not, I have not.
Kevin was going to, remember?
Yeah, Kevin had said he would chat. We haven't heard back from Kevin, but I know the library is set up for the candidates night.
Right.
So I did just wanna make a public statement. That's a good, thank you for a reminder. I will make a note to call Kevin and see if he's done that. I've received one phone call, and the person really didn't care, they were just curious, so.
As you can see, Todd just joined.
Hey Todd, welcome. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Are you able to give us an update?
Sure. So, as you probably are aware, the DRA didn't have the 20, sales that they require for their minimum sales sample. So between October 1st, 2021 and September 30th, 2022. So they reached back into the, previous year to get their 20, well, they stopped at 21 sales. They added eight more sales that were in the latter half of the 21 equalization cycle. And the results of that sample is there are 21 sales that they use, and as you recall from the DRA's presentation, the primary function of this ratio study for the DRA is for the apportionment of the taxes for the county and the school districts and the state tax. And then the side benefit is to give you an idea how your assessments are performing. And the results are, they're not bad, at least statistically. Just give it a second here. So the weighted mean, or projected weighted mean for 2022 is 83.1%. And that's the statistic that they use to determine your share of the county and all the various shared taxes. And then the median is 84.9%, which is what we use to equalize the current use and utilities and telecommunications and for abatements. Coefficient of dispersion is 12.2%, which is not bad. It's under the required 20%, so that's pretty good.
What is it
And
again? What is the
Go ahead.
What is the COD again?
Oh, COD is 12.2%.
Thank you.
And Todd, could you take a moment and just explain what the COD represents in terms of a statistic?
So the COD is the coefficient of dispersion. That's the measure of equity, and that's a percentage of the sales sample average from the mean. So what that means, the median. So what that means is most of that sample you would expect to be within 12.2% of the median of 84.9. So you might find them at around 72%, and you might find them around 96% in that range. So there is as Sam had mentioned at the informational meeting a couple of weeks ago, there still is a fairly broad range, but statistically this is acceptable according to the IAAO and the Assessing Standards Board, and of course the state Department of Revenue follows those guidelines as well. That make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. And then the price-related differential, the PRD, which that shows where your assessment bias is, and the IAAO standard and the New Hampshire Assessing Standards Board standard, both is a range of 0.98 to 1.03, with 1.0 being neutral, and that's the case from the results of this study. Is that the PRD right now is neutral, so they're not showing a bias in either direction based on these 21 sales that they used. And that's
Todd, just to pause for a second. So one of the things that we have heard is a concern that that there is a bias in the assessment in favor of higher value properties. That is that higher value properties are undervalued by a materially greater percent than low value properties. Is it, am I understanding correctly that this PRD of 1 contradicts that view, or?
Yes, you're correct, and it's not uncommon for the PRD to find itself above one because, just because of it revolves around the weighted mean, which it gets skewed by higher value properties. So we see that often, but they say as long as it's under 1.03, it's acceptable. And in this case, to your point, 1.0 is neutral, so that this sales sample is not indicating that there's a bias in either direction.
So, then it is, am I correct is what you're saying when you look at these numbers, that when you look at the appraisals and the property sales in a statistically rigorous way, you would conclude that there is no bias towards higher value properties? There's no, they're not being undervalued relative to properties in the town of Lyme at large?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Judy?
Keep going. Do you have more for us?
I think that's pretty much it, unless you have more questions.
Dan, do you have any questions?
That's pretty much, I'm curious to hear what Rich has to say.
Yeah, I was just gonna give you the opportunity first. Rich?
Yeah. I do have one question. Good morning, Todd. Is it true that these ratios, the COD and the PRD, are computed after excluding current use properties?
That's their policy, correct.
That is their policy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to expand on that, Todd?
No, the DRA has a equalization manual that's, I believe you have a link that takes to that. It was rewritten in 2014 that explains what their process is and whatnot, if anyone's interested in reading it.
Okay,
And that is on our website, and I have sent that manual to multiple people.
okay,
Mhm.
excellent. Okay, so, no, was there not one property with current use? I'm not sure.
Well, sometimes now, Todd, you should explain that sometimes they do have to use
current
different
use.
ones to make up the 20, correct?
Well, they did ask if we thought that the ad valorem value was market value, and in several cases we agreed. I'm not sure if they used those, because they did exclude, of the 30 properties that were excluded, 13 of them were in current use, so the majority of them, well, maybe it's not quite the majority, but that was a considerable exclusion reason among these sales that happened.
And why do they exclude those?
Because they're in current use, so they're encumbered, and because current use is a deed encumbrance that's supposed to be in perpetuity, so they figure that that's an undue burden on the property, and it may skew the selling price.
Okay, so, in other words, if I've got that right, if they included the current use properties, that would cause a bias in favor of higher value properties?
It may, I'm not certain of that, but it may.
And easements aren't counted either, any property with easements on them, right, Todd?
In that equalization manual that the state uses, there is a list of exclusion codes, and I haven't read it recently, but I believe there are definitions as well.
Yeah.
And
Well, current use and conservation easements would, normally I would expect to be more prevalent with, in connection with higher value properties. You have more land, and so you have more ability to put property into current use, and those sorts of encumbrances would tend to cause the values of those properties to be lower than they would otherwise be, because without those encumbrances, the property would be worth more. When you put those kind of encumbrances on a property, you're limiting what you can do with it, which would, I would expect, cause the value to be less than fair market value. So when the DRO excludes those properties, I would think that would have the effect of reducing the bias in favor of high-value properties. Maybe I'm confused on that, but,
I think that's true, I would agree with that.
okay.
They're just, the DRA they just wanna have clean sales, basically, so that current use is an encumbrance, and whenever it comes out, if it comes out, they're subject to a land use change tax, so that's an effect on the value, I would imagine. And then in the case of a conservation easement, you can't develop it unless the entity that holds the easement releases the easement, and how often does that happen? But, yeah, I would agree with that, and it's not a perfect world, but this is the world we live in. There's all kinds of tax loopholes that are out there that give different entities a tax benefit for whatever reason. And in current use's case, they want open space. That's the norm.
I will share with you, David, that 40% of Lyme is in current use.
Yeah, but,
No, I'm just telling you.
yeah, that's not, we have nothing to say about that. The town of Lyme has no ability to.
I wasn't saying you did.
If you
I wasn't
don't,
saying you did.
I understand people have objections to current use, and then there are also people who are very strongly in favor of current use because of it.
I'm not arguing, I'm
retain-
just telling you how
But
much.
that policy question
I'm
is
just
a.
telling you how much of the property is affected.
Right, and the follow-on that does speak to your question is that because so many of the high-end properties are in current use, most of them are excluded, which could in fact lead to a PRD that shows there is no bias. That's our concern. And so if,
And when-
and
I will.
Mrs. Brotman,
Okay.
may we get a list of these properties that they were included? That's my final question.
Okay, I'll answer that later.
Thank you.
Todd, did you want to respond at all to any of this last conversation?
Well, I mean, I agree with Mr. Brown. His observations are correct in my opinion. Unfortunately, we'd have to change the law.
Right.
And that would change the policy. But it's a policy issue, in my opinion, more so than anything else.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
So we have in front of us a municipal assessment data certificate for the 2022 equalization. And,
DRA.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
The DRA requires that so they can finalize the ratio. They've basically finalized it, they just need that final piece signed and uploaded to their portal. And then they'll come back with the
This is-
ratio.
And we're signing this based on the draft that they sent us.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Right, and so, are we,
Which we've now had
a chance
a
to
chance
look
to
at?
discuss with Todd and to look
Yeah.
at. And
Yeah,
is there anything else on this draft study that they sent us that we're not to circulate that's noteworthy or that we should be concerned about, Todd?
I don't think so. I mean, if the final is the same as the draft, things are okay. I mean, I've seen it in other towns where they did supplementals and they need 20 and then put in 27 and the draft was, the additional sales made it worse, but that's not the case in Lyme. That's a story for a different town, but, as far as I understand, speaking with Natalie, that's pretty much, this is done, it just needs to be signed off on by the board, and then it'll be signed off on by the DRA.
Todd, do you happen to know how the PRD changed from 2021 to 2022?
yes, I think we have that.
To look that up, give me a minute, I don't have that ratio study in front of me unless Ina
I
has
was
it.
gonna say, not in front of me, I don't, sorry, Todd.
Right this.
If it's now 1, it went down.
Do you have a 21?
So it was higher, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's not it,
That's not it?
no. No, that's
I
just.
think I have the 2021 one, Dina, right
Oh,
here.
good,
Here,
So you were looking for the PRD?
yes.
It was 1.03.
Okay,
Okay, so that's, and if I'm in my idiotic, lawyer's way of looking at this, I'm looking at the PRD as a measurement of vertical equity. And my understanding of the statistic is that the closer it is to 1, the more equitable it is. Am I,
I don't necessarily give the PRD the most weight. The statistic that I would weight the most is the COD, coefficient of dispersion, but last year, that sales sample did show a little bit of a bias towards the higher value properties, but it's within the acceptable range.
I understand.
And the subsequent, yeah.
So how is it that COD changed, if you think that that is a better measure of what I'm calling vertical equity, how has that changed from 2021 to 2022?
you're good, thank you.
Jordan, do you have
Thanks,
that
Jordan.
one?
I'm looking.
COD's kind of up in the top corner.
On the front?
Yeah, front page, it might be the second page. I think it's on the front page. I think it was around 12, I think it was around 12 last year, so that hasn't changed much.
Right in the
Your
middle.
ratio, 10%, but, and your PRD went down, but your coefficient of dispersion,
2022's, it's right in the middle. See the results? Is this what you're looking at? Right here. COD,
COD, okay.
PRD.
Well, geez, let's make it the silly place. Does 16 sound right?
no, that's not it.
I didn't think it was. I thought it was,
It was around 11 or 12.
I was gonna say, I thought it was 12 point something, oh, 12.4.
And
Yeah,
explain that statistic to me, what do you wanna see, if everything was 100% accurate and our statistics were dead on the money and exactly where we want them to be, what would that COD number be? 0?
well, around 10, I mean, 10 is good. If you go up 5, you're cheating by our standards, so you don't wanna be too good, because that means you're manipulating sales, but you're under 20, under 15 is good, between 9 and 12 is pretty consistent, and yours stayed almost the same for a year, so that's pretty good.
So it was 12.6 last year, it's 12.2 this year, at least on the draft,
It was
so.
12.4 last year.
Oh, so, yeah, real close, all right.
Yeah.
So that's pretty consistent, and that's a good thing in my opinion.
If you look around New Hampshire more broadly, would you say that the statistics, both the COD and the PRD statistics for the town of Lyme are better than average, or worse than average?
I'd say about average. I mean, I'm seeing similar results in my other towns that I did in 2021. And then, of course, the farther out you go, the worse your statistics are. So the 2020 towns their CODs are starting to get skewed, their ratios. So I think many of them are probably looking to update their values sooner than 5 years, but I can't say that for sure. Then there's the dynamic that we have the people to do all this work. You may have heard about Vermont, who they don't have to revalue every 5 years as long as their ratios stay above 85%. And I hear that there's over 150 towns in Vermont that are by law that have to revalue because they're over 80 or under 85%, which makes sense because that's the way the market's gone, and they can't find anybody to do it. So Vermont's in a little bit of dilemma, and New Hampshire may find itself in a similar dilemma in years to come.
Todd,
There's not.
and what are the numerical, what are the statistical numbers that we would see in this report, this draft report, that would cause the DRA to tell us that we have to revalue? At what point do they say, oh, this is no good, you gotta do it over?
20.
Coefficient dispersion is the main thing. Once it goes over 20, then they're gonna suggest you do a revaluation.
Okay.
My understanding is because this market and because there's so many towns that are around that 20%, they're not really pushing that quite so much. But that remains to be seen. We'll see what happens with the market if it turns. I mean, your statistics, other than the ratio, you actually got a little bit better this year based on the sales they use. And yes, they did use 7 sales or 8 sales from the previous ratio study, so, I mean, that's something to consider, but those are the parameters they work under.
Okay.
So, would it be, I don't wanna put words in your mouth, would it be fair to say that it would be your professional opinion that we would be better off to continue one more year and then look to the future to see what that 2023, looks like before we invest in doing a reval?
Well, that would be my opinion. I agree with that. I think if you did a revaluation this year, you're probably gonna get more of the same, because the ratio, went up 10%, so I'm gonna presume that it's those lower tiered properties that probably are continuing to increase in value at a higher rate, so you may see another shift, and I think that's not the goal, at this point in Lyme. But you could do it, and it may shift further in the direction that it went in 2021. And yes, I would wait to see when the market's gonna turn, because that's probably gonna happen sooner rather than later, you would think, because the interest rates have doubled, more than doubled. And so that's obviously gonna affect people's ability to pay for properties. I'm not sure how many cash sales there are in Lyme, but the Hanover assessor said that he had about 60% of his sales were cash, so their interest rates obviously aren't affecting those sales. So maybe a little bit different in that area.
Right. Ben, anything further for Todd?
Well, it sounds like we're, if we put an analogy, if we'd gone to the doctor and got a blood test, looked at our results, that Lyme's results fit in the parameters that say the reval was a healthy reval.
That's an excellent analogy, and I would agree with that.
Thank you. Okay, David, anything further?
Nothing further for Todd, I don't think.
Dina? Todd, we thank you very much. Appreciate your consultation and your being available today. How much snow did you get?
We had only about 4 inches so far. Looks like it's still snowing a little bit here. How much up there?
We had 6.5.
Did you?
At your house, really? Oh,
Yeah.
I guessed 8.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
You'll
so
get
6 to 8.
Heavy was measured.
That surprises me.
Okay, so I guess we maybe lucked out a little bit.
I don't know if it's over yet.
No,
Yeah.
it's not over.
Still coming.
1:30.
All right, well, stay safe and thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Bye-bye,
Have a good
Todd.
day.
So you guys were chuckling, what are you chuckling about?
Oh, he said the lower value properties had gone up more, and you can just see in the statistics that it's not true.
Well, you're looking at the books you did last year.
No, we've continued to monitor them, and the sales since September of 2021, the lower value properties have gone up about 15 to 20%, and the higher value property, selling for 15 to 20% over list appraised value, and the high value properties are more like 50 to 60%.
Oh, boy, I didn't see that, but I spent quite a good bit of time trying to see that, and now I've lost the piece of paper where I did all my figuring, but, an awful lot of it is how you're looking at it and what you're looking for, but I didn't find from my investigation, I thought that the lower value properties were selling for a higher percentage than the higher value properties. Not that the numbers,
Well-
I mean,
Well, we're just
Yeah.
looking at appraised value and what we can see in the Grafton records for what they sold for. So, I mean, we're pulling from the same data, and
yep, different interpretations
We
of
can,
it.
we can show you what we see, Judy. I will send it to you.
Well, I've looked at what you've done in the past that you've shared with Dina, cause she's shared it with me, and, I'm seeing it differently, but I think it's probably, at this point, not really helpful for us to go round the bend, each of us with our own opinions of what it says.
Well, I think that, what we need is a shared set of data. And the problem is that there's multiple lists going around, and that is causing some confusion.
Well, once it's finalized with the
Well,
DRA,
we can
I sent
share.
you the 2021 one
Right,
with the
right.
list that they included,
Right.
and then I can send you
Well,
the
it's-
22 when I get it.
Did you have a look at one of the Strader reports said there were 356 transactions in Lyme, and that's clearly like,
That includes deeds, mortgages, easements, it includes everything, cause I asked about that figure myself.
but it's,
So-
well, it's way out of
Name
line.
changes,
It's way out of line
anything.
compared to previous reports.
Yeah,
So
Well,
Hebe,
it could be wrong.
maybe what we should do is to say, when you get these numbers, it will be really helpful for us to receive them as well. And if we can recreate Todd's numbers, that'll be an important thing for us.
I think they're the DRA's
They're
numbers.
DRA's numbers, I will correct that
Ah.
again, yeah. The
Well-
Excuse me,
DRA does
right, the DRA numbers,
DRA
yes.
does the calculations,
Sure.
that's right.
Mhm.
But as soon as I get, yes,
Okay.
anything that's in there right now is, they say right on it, not for publication. So
Then-
when it's finalized.
So to
then you
answer
can
your
have-
earlier question, when we have something that's released, that's final for publication, we
And we're
would be,
likely to sign that,
we would,
that allows them to do that.
I think we are going to sign that thing.
Yeah, I was just
That'll-
gonna move, do you need a
Okay,
motion
I would
to-
love a motion.
I would move that we move forward and sign the equalization municipal assessment data certificate.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Jen, aye.
And Judy, aye. So we will sign this, we'll send that in, and when we get the whatever it is that they decide to send back
Yep.
out,
Good.
we will definitely share
Thank you.
that with you.
Careful, that's still
And they
wet.
allow us,
I know, I'll
These
be able
papers-
to duplicate.
these papers that we have right now very, very clearly state that they're not for publication.
That's fine.
Actually, I asked Dina to inquire, and she was already doing it when we sent her the email with town council to say, what happens if we release this information? Is the DRA gonna come lock us up? Because, that's pretty strongly worded.
Right, I'm not asking you to do things you're not allowed to.
I'm hopefully going to stay out of trouble. I'm not looking forward to a visit to the jail.
That would be impressive.
Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? And as soon as you think you're all set, that's when it happens.
Mhm.
Okay, so we
Beautiful.
hopefully will
Thank
be
you.
on our way.
Dina, do you have any sense about what the turnaround is with the DRA on this? Once we get them this, how long it takes them to get a final ratio study report to us?
I can't guess right now because it just depends, because I know it has to go from Natalie finalizing it to Sam reviewing it and finalizing it.
Is it
It
typically?
could be this afternoon and it could be next week.
Okay, but it's unlikely to be
suspect.
3 or 4 weeks.
I don't suspect it will be that long.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Our next item of business will be a non-public session. And, then we are going to have another non-public session, and then we are going to have a third one. If you saw the agenda, there was a non-public for 11 a.m. that said additional non-public session. That was only if needed, and I've not been made aware of that, so we will be having 1, 2, 3.
And I can make a correction right now that you'll be having 2, because the 10:30 canceled,
Okay,
just barely.
okay, well,
I'll
we will
explain it,
go
yeah.
into non-public session to talk about that.
Right.
So, I thank you for your.
I'd be just curious what kind of community concerns require a non-public session.
Where we use somebody's name in public.
It's a reputation thing, and it has to do with members of the community that there are some issues with, and we can't talk in public about
Fair
it.
enough.
Okay.
Is you guys went back to the bargaining table, whatever, for a negotiated settlement with, an abatement appeal?
We did,
Is that,
and that was settled.
and is that public?
I don't know if that's public.
That a public
I don't know
document?
what you're talking about, an abatement appeal? when?
Yes, there was an abatement that went to DRA, and DRA sent it back to us and asked us to try and mediate a settlement, so it didn't have to,
Oh, from, last year, from 21.
last year,
Okay.
yep.
Sorry, I thought there was one, I'm like, did I miss it? Okay.
So, I don't know, we did settle it, I don't know if it's made public or not.
The other abatements are public, so,
I'd have to find out whether the court document, I don't know, I imagine,
Imagine it is, but you
Yeah.
should check.
I would imagine so too,
but I
but
should check.
if
Yep.
we can check, and
Yep, I
and
can.
if it is, you are
Great.
welcome to